It appears we may have some trouble in Ottawa. We had ourselves a video we made the other day talking about Erik Brannstrom and Logan Brown, two guys on this team that are considerably young athletes and who were in positions where we didn't really know the security of their jobs, I guess you would say, with the Ottawa Senators Hockey Club, which is the team that they're on right now, technically. Sort of. I mean, one of them doesn't have a contract, it's not really solidified, but either way, that video we made was talking about the claim that we had in the media as to whether or not the Sens would go out there and actually trade away the Erik Brannstrom that they acquired in the Mark Stone trade from the Vegas Golden Knights, one of the three Golden Knights top picks in the 2017 draft that is now all gone from that team, as well as Logan Brown, who is not a Vegas Golden Knights guy, but instead an Ottawa Senators draft pick in the flesh all the way back from 2016. Now, Logan Brown, like Brannstrom, is considerably young as well, but he is 23 years old. We're going to be focusing here on Brown today because we had ourselves a recent piece published on the Ottawa Sun by Bruce Garrioch that gives us somewhat of an update, I guess, to Logan Brown and the entire trade situation kind of thing that we were talking about a few videos ago. So, Logan Brown, just for backstory right here, 23 as we said, 6'6", 227, he's a center. Left-handed guy, he currently is unsigned. He is one of the two RFAs remaining on the Ottawa Senators. The other one is Brady Tkachuk. Now, for Logan Brown, he's a guy that was drafted 11th overall. He was supposed to be this really strong blend of size and skill and scoring ability. He was a really good point producer in the Windsor Spitfire system when he was drafted. He also suited up for Team USA internationally as well. But he made himself a pretty good career bouncing up and down in the OHL and going from team to team because he was traded from Windsor to Kitchener halfway through the 2018 season. He also made his Ottawa Senators debut that year, but was never really able to play for the Senators full time. He's gotten time in the AHL where he has been a really productive player, but when it comes to his NHL reliability, he's been injured a lot. He hasn't really been given that chance. The Ottawa Senators haven't really been able to play him as much as they would have liked, and it's gotten to a point now where Logan Brown, despite the fact that he is all of these things, he is big, he is skilled, he's productive, he is a capable hockey player, the Sens just haven't really had the best showcase of him at the NHL level this far into his career. He had made his Senators debut in 2017-18, and up to this point he has only played 30 National Hockey League games. He is an RFA, so he does need a contract, but Bruce Garrioch gives us a little bit of an update here in his recent piece talking about the Drake Batherson deal. If we scroll all the way down and talk about what he says about Logan Brown, he writes at the end of the piece right here, other than Brady Tkachuk, the only other RFA to sign left is Logan Brown. A former first-round pick, he wants to be dealt before camp begins, as Brown has yet to sign his qualifying offer. It hasn't worked out for either side, and it's best that they both move on. But Brown may have to accept a deal, a contract he means, come to camp and try to increase his trade value because he won't be given away. We talked as recently as Thursday with Logan's camp, and I'm sure we'll come to some kind of compromise at some time, GM Pierre Dorion said. Now, before we go over and analyze the meat and potatoes about this quote over here, let's go over just the ending part right there. I'm really intrigued as to the way Pierre Dorion discusses Logan Brown and the way that they're going to proceed with these discussions. They don't say, okay, we're going to come to an agreement soon. We're going to come to a mutual understanding soon. We're going to sign a contract. We're going to be on the same page. He says we're going to come to a compromise. Some kind of compromise where, you know what a compromise is, right? You get what you want, well, part of what you want, but you also have to sacrifice parts of what you want in order to get parts of what you want too. A compromise implies that both parties are not 100% satisfied. And the way the quote is laid out, I mean, it makes it seem like the Ottawa Senators might actually go out there and maybe not get what it is that they want 100%. So for Pierre Dorion to come out there say that, I think it's pretty interesting. Talk to me in the comments if you think that has some deeper meaning behind it as well. But Garrioch writes it himself here, that apparently Logan Brown wants to move on. He wants to be dealt before camp, and he has yet to sign his qualifying offer. But if he's not able to be traded, because the Senators would not want to trade a guy who is young, who is skilled, who is productive AHL-wise in Logan Brown for nothing, he might have to accept the deal, come to camp, and try to increase his trade value. That's honestly really on the nose there, Bruce Garrioch. It's kind of interesting because a lot of Senators fans have pointed this out, but every time Bruce Garrioch in particular writes about Logan Brown, it usually includes some, not really negative press, but more like, man, I'm just super disappointed in the way that you have developed so far kind of press, you know? Like the way this is phrased right here, talking about Logan Brown, well, he might not get traded, so he's gonna have to sign a contract, he's gonna have to improve his trade value, he's not gonna be given away, and that's it. It is kind of indicative of where the writer puts Logan Brown on his moral compass of hockey prosperity, I guess you could say. But when it comes to Logan Brown, that has been the thing here. He hasn't really had an option to increase his trade value. He hasn't really been played all too much at the NHL, but you can't really blame the Senators too much for that because he hasn't really been all too available the past few years. So for him to go out there and maybe request a trade, it is kind of putting the Senators in a tough spot because, yes, he is an RFA. He doesn't have a contract. He would need to go out there and commit money if you're going to go out there and trade to Logan Brown. But he also is at an all-time low in terms of his value. I mean, you take a look at what he did last season. He played such a limited amount of time. He only had 1 game with the Senators and 13 games with the Belleville Senators in the AHL. Now, sure, he had good point production, 9 points, 13 games played. Last season in 2019-20, he was over a point per game with the Belleville Senators, but he just hasn't been there. So it's really tough to go out there and say to an NHL club that is looking to trade for Logan Brown, okay, we want a first-round pick, we want a good prospect, we want a second and more. Because any other NHL team looking at that can just say, well, why would we give you that? He only played 14 games last year, and 13 of those were in the AHL. This guy's been in the NHL, up and down, since 2017. He's only played 30 games. So there's no reason for an NHL club to go out there in any potential Logan Brown trade negotiations, the contract negotiations, those come after they trade for Logan Brown, and say to Pierre Dorion and co., yeah, we'll give you the price you want because he is worth it. Sure, he may be worth it in terms of potential and ceiling, but NHL GMs don't like to deal too much in ceiling. I say too much because we saw Jesperi Kotkaniemi get that offer sheet the other day. That was all based off of ceiling, and the Carolina Hurricanes are kind of betting on that. But for the most part, NHL GMs, you know, Steve Yzerman, you see how these guys like to do it. Jim Benning with the RFA re-signings. They go off of what is done, not based off of what they could be in the future. It's always what they've shown off, and for Logan Brown, I mean, it's tough to justify any good amount of return coming back the other way, and who knows, maybe that's why the entire contract negotiation so far hasn't really gone as planned either. You want to talk about absolutes? Hey, let's talk about the guys that are on the same team as Logan Brown. Drake Batherson, under $5 million a season. Hey, he's pretty worth it right now. Brady Tkachuk's a guy whom Elliot Friedman said was probably offered some kind of Thomas Chabot 2 kind of deal. So maybe 8x8, something in that realm. And Brady Tkachuk's a guy who you could say he deserves it. He's a leader on this team. He has shown that off year after year since he was drafted in 2018. What has Logan Brown shown off at the NHL level? Well, I'll tell you, he's shown off a lot of instability, unreliability with his health, and as a result, the Senators haven't really been in a position to play him as much as a lot of Senators fans probably would have wanted to see him, because let's face it, if Logan Brown carries over that AHL success to the NHL, he could be a very fantastic player on this team. Josh Brown's cool, Connor Brown's also cool, he's a goal-scoring machine, is he not? But Logan Brown has that ceiling. I still do think he could be a very capable top 6 producer, a ballerina on skates, big 6'6" guy who's got power. but we just haven't seen it yet because he's not there. So, talk to me in the comments. What do you think about the notion that he wants out? The Senators might not be able to trade him because his value is so low at this time frame. I'd love to hear your opinions on the subject. Talk to me in the comments what you think. If you enjoyed this, 99, and bye.